7:07. And this meeting is subject to being recorded. Your image and voice likely is currently being recorded at this moment in time. So fire. So let's review requests. Unless we have anything. We don't have anything.
No, we don't have any.
Okay.
All right. So I apologize because there is a thick packet there, but we'll kind of go through them so I can talk about them and stuff. And I think the first one that you guys have in your list, I think, is the A2 replacement is what it's titled as. We're still waiting for our other ambulance to come in, A1, which hopefully will be, or the A1 replacement, which hopefully will be here by the end of this year. Being that we're at about 2 to 3 year turnaround time for an ambulance construction, the 2017 ambulance has about 70,000 miles on it right now. And as it's building out, it's got some corrosion that's starting to form on it and stuff. And normally at about the 10 to 11 year mark is when we look at replacing the ambulance, just to keep it up with the standards and stuff. So that's why I kind of put it on the radar and stuff for replacement, is just because of that turnaround. One of the things that we've come into is our call volume has gotten to the point where we're using the second ambulance quite a bit for motor vehicle accidents with multiple patients, or with we've had an increase in the amount of times we have second calls that occur where the first ambulance is tied up and we need the second ambulance. So kind of looking at identifying this and looking at where the ambulance receipts are, and I don't have the information on that, on where the ambulance receipts are at this point. I don't know what we have for a balance there and stuff. Again, just putting that on the radar of looking at when that truck might be available. One of the things that I did do is attached on your sheet underneath the request is I did reach out for a quote for an ambulance. And initially I'd put on the request $450,000 based on the fact that the last ambulance that we're waiting to come in was about $425,000. And you'll see this ambulance is at $319,000. And what I can say is this is something I've done a lot with vehicle replacement and fleet management and stuff, and trying to identify the apparatus that we need based on the
Do you want me to take her out?
call
Does she
volume.
need to go out?
Yeah, if you want to, that's.
Sure.
Based on, our call volume, kind of, the condition of the truck, how it's run and the elements it's up against. And this particular, the manufacturer that I had a relationship with, called it AEV is the name of it, American Emergency Vehicles. They were the ones that I reached out to, and for a truck that's about the same size of what we are getting for the replacement and stuff like that, that's where that price came in. So kind of looking at that, it would meet our needs. It also does not, one of the things that's not included in that, it's about another $30,000, is what they call the power load system. And that's required by the Office of EMS, that it has to be in for a lifting system to bring the patient into the ambulance. It is quite a bit less than the last ambulance that we bought, and I don't have an explanation for you on that, other than with the different manufacturers that are out there. I know there are high-end ambulances that cost a lot because of the materials they're made out of. They use all aluminum. They don't use any wood on the truck for the cabinets in the back and stuff. This particular manufacturer, just like a lot of the other ones, does use some marine grade quality wood that they use in the back to build the shelving out of and the cabinets out of. But it's a truck that will last us at least 10 years without having any major problems with it. We're always going to have some of those smaller issues with electrical problems that might develop, or motor problems, transmission problems, like any other maintenance on a vehicle. But it wouldn't be a substantial difference in what we're used to with a truck. So that was the ambulance that I looked at that meets what we are probably going to need in the future.
Do you have any idea on a yearly basis what our average ambulance receipts are?
Right now, based on what we did in the last year or two, we're just about $300,000 a year.
Okay.
And that it's one of those things, there's a lot of variables that go into that. So I know we plan kind of conservatively, hoping that it's going to be more. And not that I want to speak for Kristen, but I think we've looked at about the $250,000 mark as being what we kind of count on for the ambulance revenues. I think moving forward, just because our call volume's increasing, we're going to be able to slide that forward a little bit on what we can anticipate. But that's about $300,000, I think, is a safe bet kind of moving forward.
Is that gross?
That must be gross, right?
Yes, yep.
Yeah, I was just,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was dividing the 450 by 10 years is 45 grand a year.
Yep.
Plus employees.
Yep.
And so making sure we have that covered.
Right.
sense.
Has the thought ever occurred to use an outside ambulance service and not using Berlin as a transport? Hudson does it.
Yeah, Hudson does it, and I know that they do it based with Patriot Ambulance being their transport model. And I know that I know that everybody's struggling right now to get employees and stuff like that. I don't know if a cost, if you will, analysis has ever been done to look at that.
It was back when we replaced this ambulance. No,
The one
yes, the
coming.
2017.
Yep.
In 2017, when we bought the 2017 ambulance, we had long discussions about did we want to continue ambulance service in
Mhm.
Berlin? And it was expressed at the time that it was a large moneymaker for the town. And I don't remember exactly what that meant, but at that point in time, we were replacing an old ambulance with a brand new ambulance. And what we ended up doing was doubling our ambulances. We didn't actually replace one. But the justification was the profit basis for the town, for at least one ambulance.
Yeah, I know in looking at the, kind of, if you will, looking at the numbers and stuff, historically, when you look at the revenue that you can make based on the transports for 911 service, there's a lot of times that you pretty much just about break even by doing the service. With a lot of the changes that have happened with Medicare and stuff, there's a lot of private ambulances that are pulling out of doing the 911 services because the reimbursement rate has dropped considerably. And the overhead for a private ambulance to be in the 911 business, the real, if you will, I'll call it the moneymaker for lack of a better description, is in what they call the IFTs, which is the interfacility transfers. And those are going to be the critical care patients that are transferred from hospital to hospital. And the example I'll use is at either Clinton or Marlborough Hospital, when a patient that suffers some type of a heart attack or a stroke and needs ICU care that's going to be long-term, they get transferred to UMass in Worcester, or they'll get transferred to one of the closer hospitals in Boston, whoever has an open bed. And a lot of the revenue is generated from that at a higher rate because it's an interfacility transfer, and there's more they can charge for doing that, as opposed to the 911 services. So that's where we've seen kind of across, I'll say, the New England area, and a drop in the amount of private ambulance services that are out there doing it, and it tends to fall back into the municipality being responsible for that, that service.
The only fault I see with that is if you're doing inter-hospital transfers, then we don't have coverage here.
Right. That being said, we're not looking to do interfacility transfers.
No.
I'm referring to the private ambulance services that are doing
I'm sorry.
those.
I
Yes.
you were looking to do that.
No, we're looking, and one of the things I've talked with Kristen about, and I've talked with the select board about, is ALS care, advanced life support, having paramedics, which on paper, I can demonstrate that works very well, and in a 3 to 5 year period, we can make money that pays for the service type of thing. But in practicality, there's such a shortage right now of paramedics and stuff, it's not something that I think we can make the jump to quite yet. In the future, it may be something that by investing in some of our employees that would be willing to go to paramedic school and stuff, that's a possibility for the future. But right now, I think, and I will also say that from a regional standpoint, there's still discussions of how do we regionally do this together to share the cost between multiple communities, as opposed to just having it borne on the back of Berlin, if you will. We're still a long ways away from having that, because I think I'm one of the few fire chiefs in the area that is willing to have those discussions and say that a regional approach is a much better approach than each individual community trying to do it themselves. But I think it's something that is being discussed more and more, and that we're looking at on a more regional level. And if it was up to me, an ALS program would be very much like right now we use for paramedic intercept services, we use Bolton, and we'll use Patriot as a backup, and a tertiary service would be West Boylston if we were going to Worcester. They would come and meet us and do the paramedic intercept with us. So we have a regional program that's in place right now, and my hope would be that one day it'll be a more robust system that, and just to use me as an example, I'm a paramedic, but because we're not an ALS service, I can't actually perform as a paramedic.
Mm-hmm.
Where if we were a regional service, I would be another cog in the wheel where I could be a paramedic and utilize my services, whether it was for Berlin or if the paramedic unit that we use for the region is out on call and it was needed in Bolton, I could go over to Bolton to operate as a paramedic. That's the type of thing that we're talking about from a regional level that I'm trying to get other fire chiefs to kind of come on board with, to say, yeah, that's a good model, we need to go forward with that, so,
Okay, makes sense.
yep.
How is the staffing for that?
For the ALS service,
To get somebody to be a EMT?
the EMT, I'll say it's challenging. It's about 260 hours that they have to devote to taking the class. And that's one of the things that we run into is when we have people that have any type of an interest, when we start to identify what they have to do, the hours they have to put in, the test they have to take to get it there, that's where we tend to have people that are like, maybe I'm not that interested. I want to help, but, it's not really something I'm willing to commit to.
It's not my life mission.
Exactly. But I will say, in the last year, I've had, I have one person right now that's in an EMT program that's just about completed it and stuff. I think he's got another couple weeks left, and at the end of December, he'll be done and he'll be able to test for it. And I'm hoping to have 2 more people that are going to come on the department as a call firefighter that I'm gonna be sending to EMT school.
Where is EMT school?
They kind of, I'll say they bounce around, and what I mean by that is there's different private companies that will offer them, that will hold them, and I'm trying to remember, there's one in Lancaster, I cannot remember the name of it, but it's in a private building type of thing, and they teach the class. The organization is called the National Registry of EMTs, and they, if you will, unilaterally certify people to the EMT level or the paramedic level, and they just have a standard that this is what you have to be able to do. After you meet that and you get that certification, you apply to the state to get your license, and then each service would teach that person how to work within their system. So I know Patriot Ambulance used to offer an EMT program, and they used to do stuff with the schools and stuff. And I think they've had a staffing issue where they don't have an educator that's doing that right now, so they haven't been offering it. UMass Medical Center sometimes will do that, and there's another couple of companies, and I can't think of them off the top of my head, but those ones, they offer them at varying times of the year, and usually it's like a Monday and a Thursday night from 6 to 10 for 4 months, and there's 3 or 4 different Saturdays that you have to be there for 8 hours on that Saturday to do the class. And that's how they break it up. There are other places that will offer like a 2 or 3 week program where it's Monday through Friday, or it's all week including Saturday and Sundays. Most people aren't able to take those because obviously they have a full-time job and a family and stuff. So we tend to see our people that are interested in doing it, kind of doing it on those nights, either Mondays, Thursdays, or Tuesdays, Wednesdays, whatever nights they choose, type of thing. And those are the programs they're going to.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that covers the ambulance one. I'm not sure which one is next in your packet, because I think it's different than what I have. Let's see.
Forestry gear replacement?
The papers just say equipment replacement,
Equipment replacement.
for 30 grand.
Okay.
So that is turnout gear?
No.
No, maintenance equipment fund.
Yeah. Do you want me to?
I was gonna say, I can give a brief
Sure.
intro to that one if
Go
you
ahead.
want.
Go for it.
So this is sort of my brainchild along with the chief, because there are always unanticipated costs that come up. Something breaks that you did not expect. And one of the things that I have done before is you create an article for those costs, rather than necessarily going to the reserve fund and wiping out the reserve fund mid-year, potentially for a large cost. You're actually planning for it and setting funding aside for it. So it really would be anything that breaks, and Chief can kind of go into more details about that. But typically that would be like an article, and it is capital expenses, but it would be what I view as a free cash article to address any things that wouldn't be budgetarily possible or unanticipated. So it's almost like a mini little capital reserve fund, if you will, for the department, because we are having a lot of equipment needs that are happening, so.
Yeah. So kind of speaking to that, each piece of apparatus has, there's a ton of equipment buried in the compartments and stuff, to the tune of, I think each truck is outfitted with about $200,000 worth of equipment, between the hoses, the nozzles, the SCBAs, everything else that the truck has on it, our rescue tools. And as an example, with the brush fire season that we've had a couple lengths of our forestry hose that has been, that unfortunately has failed and burst, and we can't use anymore, so we need to replace it. We had a saw that had part of the motor fail type of thing, while they were operating in a brush fire. So these type of things that pop up, they start to get expensive and stuff, and I've tried to absorb some of the stuff in my budget in the last couple of years. The last two budgets that I've kind of been able to look at and stuff, we're spending upwards of $20,000 on some of this equipment that hasn't really been identified in the budget, especially with the huge increase we had with the pandemic and stuff, and everything kind of increasing afterwards. So this would be an avenue so that if we had something that failed on the truck, that it wouldn't be a blow to, if you will, the operating budget of paying for just the normal day-to-day operations, you know, the heat, electricity, you know, office supplies, that kind of stuff, training, that this would cover that so that if, you know, the hope would be is that if I only had $10,000 that I spent in 1 year, that we wouldn't have to raise any more money the year after, but if we had a $30,000, I'll call that a buffer that just allowed us so that if a saw failed, we can buy another saw. If for some reason we had, where we've had, unfortunately, vehicles that drive over some of our hoses and they'll rip the hose as they go over it, we don't find that person afterwards, they end up driving off, but our hose is destroyed and we need to replace the hose, and that supply hose is about $400 for each piece of hose. So those are the type of things that we kind of look at, that when those things happen, it's like, how do we replace them without, you know, going into hardship over the budget or taking a piece of equipment out of service, being one of the fire trucks. So that's kind of the idea behind that. $30,000 is just that buffer that allows, if something does fail, there's something there that we can put the equipment back on without, you know, hurting the rest of the budget.
So basically what you go looking for, what I call it a slush fund.
It is, but I don't, and this is the other part of me that is,
No, it's my term, but it's,
yes, but I don't
Yeah.
want it to be a negative thing, because it is certainly, I do not anticipate spending $30,000 every
No,
year,
no,
because I
but-
think that would be horrible on my
cause
part.
that's what,
Yeah,
because it's money that you got to use when you need it.
Right.
So it's like, that's why we call it slush, it could be used anywhere.
right,
You
yep,
know, it could be, you know, and which makes sense, I think a lot of departments really should have that, which we don't.
yeah,
In my former community, we had one for police,
Yeah.
fire, and highway as standing equipment and maintenance replacement, and then we'd bring it to town meeting as it needed to be refunded and replenish it.
Yep,
Yeah.
it makes sense. And like you said, everything is just
yeah.
going up.
But does it officially fall under capital, since it's not talking about specific items that have value over $5,000 or $10,000, I think is our.
That is an awesome question, and Eloise asked the same question. I did not want to put something out there as a special article that was capital related in terms of it being equipment items, maintenance items, and have it be a standalone special article without capital having an opportunity to review and comment on it, because I feel that the essence of it is still within the purview of this committee, even though the individual items that you
Correct.
take out of it may not be.
Right.
The total amount is a large amount. So to me, it's a little bit of a borderline one, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like that is part of the purview of this committee to look at new things that have a capital lean to them, and I
Yeah.
feel like this one does.
But you're really covering yourself, because if we're using $5,000, if he goes out and all of a sudden he's got a $7,000 item, that becomes a capital.
It does, and one of the things I have on here that we're gonna talk about is rescue tools, where we're switching from the gas-powered ones to the electric,
Yeah.
e-tools as they call them. And they run about $11,000 to $14,000.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
If one of those failed, that's a singular cost.
That's what I'm saying, so
Yeah.
technically,
Correct, it could
Yes.
become
and I think I
capital.
would write it up, if it was me, I would write it up as an expenditure for needed replacement.
Yes.
I'd call it extraordinary repairs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something like that, so,
Unanticipated,
yeah,
yeah,
And
and
I would
that's,
put one line item for police, fire, and Freddie.
cause I look at it like my saws and stuff, you know, doing the air filters, doing the spark plugs, the regular maintenance that I do with that I have covered in my budget, that's all the normal stuff, but it's the failure of the saw that takes place where it's operating and gets bogged down and the motor blows, or you know, something like that happens where,
Extraordinary.
yeah, and
Right.
to that point, exactly.
right, no, that makes all kinds of sense to me. I don't like spending money, but when it makes sense.
Yeah, And the big thing for me is I do want it to be accountable where it's going through you guys, so you guys see it and know what it's there for and stuff, and either agree or don't agree with it, but it's like at least the idea was brought up and discussed, so that when it's
Right.
something
It
does
just,
happen.
it just comes down to it is, it's gonna happen, something's gonna happen.
Mhm.
The money to you gotta get money to replace it.
Yep.
It's already there, you don't have to run around wondering where we're gonna get the money.
Right, exactly.
Right, and one of these times, I mean, we have $115,000 in the reserve fund, but that has to cover the entire town.
Yeah.
So if you have this happen to 3 departments that get a large,
Yeah.
breakdown at once, then we have a real issue, and do you wanna have to and granted, this is hedging against the, worst case scenario that probably won't happen,
Mm.
but, if you run out of the reserve fund, then you have to call a town
You know, you
meeting
stop-
because we have no other source of
You
funding.
just stop and think,
Well,
what
you
happens when
take
the
it
fire
out of
truck
your
blows a
expense
tire?
budget and
Yeah.
then have to reimburse that.
True.
It's an
At the
expensive
spring
repair.
town meeting.
Just $5,000,
Absolutely.
you know? No.
You
okay.
mean we're supposed to be keeping track of the fire truck tires?
No,
We
but
gotta
I'm
add
just,
that
I
to
was
our
using
list.
that, that's one of those extreme
Yeah,
Yeah.
things we're talking
Well,
about.
you bring up a bigger issue that I think we probably talked about last year, maybe the year before, but maybe this is the year that we do a rewrite of the capital bylaw for Maytown meeting and make it more clear what the purview of the committee is. Because remember, we had some gray areas with like the master plan for the planning board where you guys had voted on it before, but I didn't really feel like that was something that falls under the purview of capital, but the way the bylaw is written,
Yep.
it's a little gray. So
Yep.
I thought maybe perhaps that's something we could work on as a committee, as we get maybe into the winter, if we have a
Do you have a
pause.
draft already prepared?
I do not, because I did not wanna be presumptuous, but if that's something the committee is interested in, I could take a stab at it.
Have you read our, I don't know what it is, our guidelines with?
For rating and ranking projects, or the bylaw itself?
No, the one in between
Oh, in
those. Let me
between.
see what it's
Yes,
labeled in my
the-
computer.
Hold on, I was actually trying to log in so I could see. I have to actually log in remotely, the way that our system works once I unplug.
You know,
my
it's the other thing
computer.
that Eloise and I were talking about just before we come in here. What is the minimum that has to come? Is it 5,000? Is it 10,000?
So that's specified in our,
It isn't.
in our thing that we did in 2017, 2018,
Oh.
that defined the,
Threshold.
rules and regulations of the capital planning.
Oh.
Defined by capital planning and then accepted by the select board.
Okay, so this
So
is
it's like a
not the bylaw?
5-page, it's
Yeah,
a
but
5-page
What's the
document.
amount of money?
I'm trying to bring it up.
Oh, okay.
It's $5,000 or $10,000. I
Yeah.
think it's 10.
I'm used to it being 10, but I'm also used to seeing that in a bylaw. But if there is a set of guidelines that goes along with it, that works.
Yeah, we
That
sat
works
down and
too.
wrote it, because the first year was so crazy, we didn't know what we were doing, so the second year we sat down and wrote it.
Gotcha.
And then, had it,
That should be in,
it
the bylaw should be amended to include that.
okay.
Okay.
Not that I want to make more work for
No.
myself.
I was
Well-
gonna say for you.
Guideline, the only, and to your point, a bylaw is a law, right? A guideline or a
Right.
policy is a recommendation. So
Yes, but which
technically,
is more public?
a bylaw is more powerful in public because you shouldn't break a law, but a policy or a procedure that's a guideline, sometimes you can bend it a little bit because it's not a bylaw. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I'm just thinking John Q. Public sitting at home and saying, where do they get the authority to do this?
Right, and it's not in the bylaw, it's only in the guidelines or the policy. So I'm
Either
agreeing
that
with
or
you.
for the bylaw, you should have an email link and say, to see more, see, such and such.
Link to the policy, yep.
So we called it, CIPC Policies and Procedures. And it is dated September 26th of 2019. There's a mission, it has goals, where does it say?
Not to be presumptuous, but
You stealing
Good.
my phrase.
this is not really referring to.
No, no,
Oh, yeah,
sorry.
that's
We
very
got off
true.
track.
We should proceed with him.
Yep.
That's us, that doesn't,
That's all
Yes, yep,
you
I
know.
will,
Yeah, but
have,
he wants to know, I've done all this, I've done the work, how much of it is useful, how much
10,000.
of it is a waste of my time?
Well, I think everything he's done is useful.
so,
mean-
yeah, so our definition is, the definition of capital expenditure is that whereas the proposed asset or project has a useful life of 5 years or more and exceeds $10,000 in cost.
Okay, it makes sense.
Okay.
Items which may have a lower cost but when purchased in bulk or as of a part of a program are considered capital expenditures if the cost of the entire thing is more than $10,000.
Okay. Answer that question.
Further, by this policy, if a capital asset or project is typically purchased or undertaken on an ongoing basis, such as the replacement of cruisers, fire safety gear, or technology, the town of Berlin shall include such expenditures in the operating budget, provided the
Really?
expenditure is reflected in the capital plan itself.
That answered that question.
That's why I kept going.
So, yeah, so you're right.
Okay.
No, so that makes sense, you know,
There it
Yep.
is.
Yeah, but I can send those to you, to everyone.
yeah, we just,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it is it an admin procedure? Is that what it's called?
I don't know the answer. Mine says capital improvement planning committee policies.
Oh, this is an administrative what, I don't know what this is then, sorry. I may have something that's not it, so yeah, if you could send that out,
Yeah.
that would be wonderful.
That's
I don't
good.
know what I'm looking at,
Yeah.
but it's not that,
ironically, because that's what we were just talking about before you came in,
right.
the office there. All right, that's good.
Okay.
I could make it maybe a suggestion that might fulfill that requirement. If there happens to be something that is $10,000 or more within that 30, because I imagine things will most likely be less, do we have a capital sign off on it?
Oh, I think that would, I think that's acceptable on my part. I don't have an issue with that at all.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So make that just a condition of, you know, this funding, you know, being recommended, you know, or recommended by capital, that, you know, the understanding that if it fits that policy description, that it would
That's fine.
come back just for a vote, or, you know, at
Yeah.
least that understanding that it's on the table.
But I mean, especially where you're actually looking for a lump sum, you're not looking for a lump, you're looking for one, basically, chunk of money.
Right, and we did it as a standalone special article, but it's unusual, and we haven't done it before, and I feel like I should always announce and broadly spread things that are new
Well,
and unusual.
you know, and I'm very much for getting up, you know, with the chief and say, this is the reason it's here. Doesn't mean you're gonna spend $30,000. With a little luck, you spend nothing,
That's right.
but it's there if it
Correct.
does.
Yep.
So would the idea be then to pull it out of capital and make it a standalone article, with the understanding that if anything is 10K or more, it comes to capital?
I think that makes sense because it's not, it itself is not a capital.
Correct.
But it itself is something that would be influenced by us.
Right, it could potentially produce a capital
Yes.
item.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it should be its own.
That way there
I
we're
like
all
that.
covered.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay.
Good. So I think the next one that's on there is the turnout gear replacement program, and that's just the one where I'm replacing 5 sets of gear every year just to keep everybody going.
I thought that looked familiar.
Yeah, and that way we, you know, basically, over the course of 10 years, when the gear needs to be replaced, everybody has 2 sets of gear and stuff, and during that period of time, their gear gets replaced, and it just keeps it going without being a large increase to the town to have to buy, if you will, 40 sets of gear in 1 year to kind of accomplish that for everybody.
Can I ask, how's our washer dryer?
I was gonna ask the same question.
It's actually very good. The washing machine is actually amazing. It just one of those things from a standpoint of, there's many different programs we can put it on depending on how much is soiled, whether it's kind of like rags and materials, or if it's heavily soiled from like oil from a diesel spill or something like that. And it's got a proportioning system that it uses, I don't wanna say a little amount, but compared to our old washer, the amount of water and soap that it uses, it dispenses to a T, but the gear comes out very clean.
Yeah.
Which is really
So
nice.
basically you're saving water and detergent and soap.
Exactly, yep.
In the environment.
That might, it's nice.
So, yeah, that's, it's very beneficial.
Can I
so
ask,
thank you.
another thing, is the detergent you use, is it biodegradable, is it environment friendly, or because of what you're cleaning it can't be?
I believe it is environmentally friendly and biodegradable, but let me get back to you on that, because
No,
I'm not
no,
100% sure.
It does, it's not that
Yep.
important, I was just curious.
Okay, nope,
Because sometimes being, environment friendly doesn't necessarily mean it does the job.
right, exactly. Yep, nope, you're 100% right.
All right, thank you.
Not a problem. The next one that's on there is the rescue tool replacement, and this is the one that I was speaking of that was going to have us go to all e-tools and get rid of our gas-powered tools. I'm happy to report that I had $90,000 on there, but I'm not gonna need $90,000. I'm only asking for, I believe it's gonna be $28,000.
Wow.
I have a grant that I received that I'm using money to buy the e-tools, some of them, and I'm basically redeploying how we're gonna use those. What I do need is what they call 2 rams, and the rams are used for a compression, like from a dashboard if it's crushed down on somebody, or if there's a piece of debris that has come down in a building collapse or something like that. The ram is basically a hydraulic tool that spreads the material and lifts it up. And I need 2 of those, and they cost at about just about $13,500 for each unit. But those are the only 2 that I would need that would outfit us to be able to have dual sets of equipment that would be able to, if you will, sustain us in any event that we had in town or out on the highway. So that's going to reduce down to that $28,000 or so versus the $90,000 that I was originally anticipating.
Is that the rescue tool replacement?
Yes.
So it's
Yep.
28
Yes.
even, or
Probably 28.5, I think, is about where it's going to fall.
28.5?
Yep.
Okay.
It won't be any more than that. My hope is I'm gonna be able to get that down as well, just with, buying the multiple pieces of equipment that I'm gonna buy. I'm hoping that I'm gonna be able to reduce that.
What's the chances, how much do you think that will go up between now and when you actually,
I've been told it's probably not gonna go up, that's
Wow.
gonna probably be the price, if you will, in July, if I was to order it, based on,
Okay.
they're not anticipating an increase there. As opposed to, like, the ambulance, I may see, actually, the ambulance, I'm in the same boat, there probably won't be an increase until next year and stuff, so each year we don't get an ambulance or, a vehicle, there'll probably be an increase on that, but it's not gonna be the huge increases we were seeing before, it's probably gonna be more of that 3 to 5%. But this one, I'm pretty sure is gonna stay right where it is,
Cool.
but I will double check on that as well. And then moving forward, this next one, the UTV. This one was kind of, we have a UTV that we use right now, that is it's a good piece of equipment to get us in the woods. It's a little overweighted, where it doesn't, the water and the equipment that's on there with the personnel kind of bogs it down a little bit. One of the problems that we've run into as we've started to, we've seen an increasing use of that for calls for the brush fires, and for incidents along the train tracks, and, obviously for medicals out in like Gates Pond and up on Mount Pisgah and some of the other recreation trails we have in town. One of the issues we had with brush fire on the trail tracks was because they increased the size of the rails. We used to be able to run that unit down the middle of the tracks, and it would fit perfectly. It was a rough ride, it bounced, but because they're bigger now, it actually catches the tire. We had a tire that blew, and because, and I laugh just because it's a comical thing, the frame rail, when that tire popped, fell right down on top of the train track, so we couldn't get it off without having a wrecker. Luckily for us, we were close to the road crossing, so we were able to pull it off, but we're gonna have to rethink how we deploy that into the railway system and stuff, just because if it happened a half a mile in, I don't know that I can get a tow truck down there to pull them off. We're just gonna have to look at that and stuff, so
Ask the railroad,
what's that?
ask the railroad.
I've gone through them, and they don't have a whole lot that they're willing to do at this point. So I am looking at other avenues for that and stuff. But at the same time, also getting it out into some of our conservation land for medical emergencies that we've had out there. It's a little bit, some of the other units that are out there are a little bit better built for that as opposed to this one. And this one it's not a priority. It was something that I was identifying, that if there was kind of a use for that to go to another department or somebody else, and we could get a UTV that's actually a little bit better and suited for us and stuff that would perform a little bit better for the emergencies, that's what I was kind of putting it in on. Now, that being said, I don't expect that this is something that's going to happen, just because of the financial situation that we're in, but I am throwing it out there just as a.
So that's not one of your priorities?
No, if you're asking me to prioritize my list, this is going to be at the bottom of my list.
That's where it's going.
Yep.
Right on the bottom of the pile.
The next one is, it's called the Lucas CPR Assist device. We have these on both the ambulances, and what this is this is a machine that does the compressions for us for somebody that suffers a cardiac arrest. We have them on both ambulances, but one of them has reached the end of its life, meaning that it still operates right now, but it's not supported by the company. They recommend pulling it out of service and not using it, which we haven't done yet, just because it's still working, and if it stops working at a scene, it would be no different than if there was a mechanical malfunction. We'll just take over doing manual CPR. It is a great device for giving consistent BLS skills, and what I mean by that is one of the things the American Heart Association and most medical professionals now say is good BLS is the key to bringing back somebody that suffered a cardiac arrest. And it means good, if you will, chest compressions that are consistent and airway management from us before we get into giving medications and shocks with a defibrillator. This is a priority for me just because I don't want to have one of the ambulances without the CPR assist device on it, because it does make a difference, and I would hate to have that, if you will, one truck has it, the other doesn't, and somebody has to have manual CPR versus having the machine that actually does really well with it. So putting that in there,
Would
that
you change it from fiscal year '27?
Well, that's what I'm gonna ask you, why is it on 27?
that's a really good question. I'm going to go with a typo on that it should not be on 27, and
Did I
thank you
put
for
it in
catching
the
that.
wrong place?
No,
wouldn't
I
have.
did. I have it marked out on here.
Oh,
It's
okay.
That's why I was just,
Yes.
I was just looking at that, and I'm going 26, why are we doing, and it's ready to die, you shouldn't be.
Yeah,
Right.
that one was supposed to be a 26, and I
I'll be the
apologize.
third person to call, so don't worry.
Let's hope that's not the case.
Don't worry, I'm making plenty of adjustments on this, that's why this is good. It's
Yes.
a living, breathing document.
Yep.
That doesn't look like a lot, and I'm not complaining, but it doesn't look like a lot of money for that.
It's not a terrible amount of money, and that gives us, one of the things that comes with that, you know, when we buy this device, is it should last us for that 15 years, and it gives us the support from the company with them coming in, doing the maintenance
Yeah.
checks on it, which also cover if the batteries fail, if any part of the machine fails, that's covered under the maintenance plan that goes with this and stuff, and it's part of that price package.
And is there any kind of, when you get it, since it's a new unit, would it be any more training from them too?
They would come in and train everybody on it, go over it with them, and there's no additional cost for
That's
that.
good.
The next one that I had on the list was our Forestry gear replacement, and unfortunately, as firefighters, you know, being jacks of all trades and masters of none, brush fires have been something that this year have been obviously a big concern for us. We've been responding to a lot of them. One of the things that we found is our brush gear, we have a hodgepodge of gear that the firefighters wear that have been, you know, they're anywhere from 10 to 20 years old. We're starting to see some of the failures take place where the pants are failing, the stitching's blowing out on it type of thing, the shirts are failing. They get exposed to sunlight, they're made out of Nomex, so they fail with that. So kind of looking at the cost to kind of replace that for everybody to get new brush gear and stuff, that's where the $26,720 came in. And I identified that that's something, especially if our brush season continues into the springtime, that's gonna be something that we're gonna be looking at next year, kind of trying to replace and to get. One of the things I can do is I can try to phase that in over time, as well, and reduce that money and try to buy a few sets every year for everybody and kind of do what I'm doing with the, if you will, the turnout gear that we're buying. The reason why this one was for everybody was just because I have such a high failure rate now of the gear that I don't have a lot to choose from, and I'm kind of taking some of that stuff to buy some of the gloves that they use. And that gear is designed so that it's fire resistant, but it's also lightweight, so when they're out in the woods, they're not overcome with heat exhaustion. With wearing the structural gear, even if we take it apart just to wear the outer layers of it, it holds the heat in, and we tend to see firefighters out in the woods that drop of heat exhaustion very quickly. So that's the reason why I kinda push that to see if I can replace any of that, as much of that gear as I can, just because I don't have a lot to choose from right now, and everybody's kind of in need of it.
Give me an approximate number of how much it would be for one person.
I believe it's about $1,400 for one person for the, if you will, and that includes, it's pants, shirt, I think the boots, and the helmet and the goggles, if I'm not mistaken, I believe.
So you have for the 26,720, you have more than 10 people.
Yeah, about
I can't
12.
do that, 12.
Yeah,
When's the last time this stuff was bought?
Fred, do you happen to know? It is, I'm going back, probably the last time that I can find anything, it is going back almost 15 years ago.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, it's been a while.
Yeah.
How long are they usually good for?
These should last at least 10 to 15 years. These ones
Okay.
don't have the expiration date on it for the 10 years that all the other stuff going into a structure, or if you will, a building fire type of thing. Those ones are the 10-year life expectancy because they do fail quite rapidly. These ones don't have that right now and stuff, so I'm thinking that we can get, 10 to 15 years easily.
Yeah, and also, you guys haven't been fighting that many brush fires in the last 5 years either.
Yeah.
Compared to this year.
Yeah, this year has been crazy. I know last year we started out at the beginning of the year when we had Mount Pisgah and stuff, we had a bunch of brush fires then, but nothing like we've had this year. And unfortunately, that's what we're seeing is we're just where we've been using it so much. The age of it, they failed that quickly. Just being exposed to that heat, there's a lot of heat that they're stepping on when they're operating. These fires are burning a foot or two into the ground right now. So even after they knock the fire down, when they're walking through the burning area to turn over the hot spots, they're standing on ground, the ground's a couple hundred degrees, so the boots are failing, and the pants we're finding, just being exposed to that heat, the stitching just falls apart, and all of a sudden, the pants are open all the way up to the thigh, because the stitching has just come apart on it.
What kind of delivery time do you guys get for this stuff?
This stuff will be fairly quickly. A lot of the stuff they have in stock, and it's probably a couple weeks at the most. As opposed to the structure gear, usually takes about 6 to 10 weeks to get manufactured and brought in, because it's more tailored.
Yep.
And the last one that I have on there is the Forestry One replacement. Again, just dealing with the brush fires and stuff like that, our Forestry it's a 2009 Ford chassis that we currently have that we're operating on. Last year, we had some motor problems with it and stuff, and we had some repairs, and I think my maintenance on that last year was probably in the neighborhood of almost $10,000. Just where the truck's getting older, I'm kind of identifying that. I have that in the FY '28 budget cycle, just kind of looking at that as a plan. And what I'm looking at is, I have put, I believe $90,000 in there, kind of looking at what the cost of a new pickup truck is right now and kind of forecasting that out to FY '28. My plan is to take our current utility truck that we have now, which was bought in 2022, and to move that to become the forestry truck, and buy a new truck that would be our utility. My personal thing is I always hate buying a brand new truck that's gonna go into the woods to fight brush fires, because they're gonna get scratched by the tree branches and everything else. And having a brand new truck doing that always bothers me, so that's why I always try to take whatever is available for an older pickup truck and changing that into a forestry.
What size is the Silverado?
Well, the Silverado was a 1500? It is a 3/4?
It's
Okay.
awful small for a forestry truck, isn't it?
It might be, it depends on what we're gonna carry
'Cause
on
that's
it.
only got a 5.3 in it. And it's only a 3/4 ton.
The last time this was brought before us, which was 2 or 3 fire chiefs ago.
Yep.
They were talking about an old army truck, like buying surplus.
I can look at doing that. My only concerns with doing that is whether or not we have the room to actually keep that. Meaning that those are bigger trucks.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I have the bay space right now able to put one of those inside. But that is definitely something I can look at, and I can take a look and report back to you guys on as I kind of see what's available out there. And looking down that avenue, if I can do that, I know DCR has some, and it's always, and I look to Fred just because he has more experience with DCR than I do. They have leftover surplus vehicles that come from the federal government for forest fighting out west type of
Right.
thing that sometimes make its way out here, and it's available to municipalities if you can take it on, upfit it, and insure it and stuff, so that's an opportunity for us as
Yeah,
well. So-
I don't have much good feeling about putting a 3/4 ton in
Okay.
forestry. It's a great idea.
Okay,
I just think you need something a little bit bigger, like a 1 ton maybe.
okay,
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
no,
that's
I-
my feeling.
I appreciate that, I'll take a
No.
look into that and stuff, and,
Because, like I said, I have a 1/2 ton,
yep,
and you're not much bigger with a 3/4
Right.
than what I've got. And I'm looking amount of gear and stuff you're gonna have
Yep.
on that, and I have the off-road package,
right.
so, you really have to beef that thing up quite a bit.
No, and it's a good point, because it potentially puts us in the same position that we had with the UTV, where it's underpowered and overweighted.
And that's
So,
what
that's
I'm
a
looking
valid
at.
point.
I think you're kinda too light for that. That's my opinion.
Okay, nope, I appreciate the feedback on that, and I will look, there's part of me that looked at it, I didn't wanna get a bigger truck and make it look like that I was trying to build a bigger fleet type of thing, but where it has been discussed, that's good feedback to have, because it's a possibility of getting that bigger truck through DCR that may be able to fit. I know some of the trucks are really big and we're not gonna be able to get them,
Right.
but some of the ones that are more of that midship, we might be able to get at a reduced price and stuff, and
Cause you gotta look at, you want something with some decent tires on it. I mean,
Mhm.
3/4 ton, you're not gonna have that great a tire. You want something a little bit like your 1 ton. Something like what's on that for tires,
You want something that can rock crawl.
that would be great.
Ford's coming out with a
Oh, shoot.
Super Duty Ranger 2028.
Oh, well, there you go, that might work.
Yeah, it's gonna tow 9,900 pounds,
yeah,
so they said.
yeah.
Weather can
Yeah.
stop at that 9,000 pounds is a different.
I look at,
Yeah, that's a good.
my
point.
GMC, like it's 23 with a 5.3 in it. And they tried to sell me a 2.4. I said, I'm not plowing snow with a 2.4. What are you, out of your mind?
Could you take your top 5
Yes.
things on this list and maybe in order?
Yep, I will say the Lucas device is probably my number one, just from a standpoint of that, and if you want to-
sense.
Yeah, it's a life-saving device that I think is really gonna work. I would probably say the, hydraulic, e-tools, will round
The
out.
rescue tools?
Yep, that will round out, things for us where we're out on the highway quite a bit. We do quite a few car accidents that we need extrication tools at, so that's gonna be a big one. I would probably look at, and I'm just thinking in my mind that the gear replacement is a good program to have.
The turnout gear?
Turnout gear?
Yeah, and it's one of those things I just hate to, if I don't do that one year, it just backs us up and it means I'm gonna
Yeah.
run into problems with gear replacement.
Forestry gear, maintenance equipment fund.
I'd probably say the maintenance, between maintenance equipment and the forestry gear, those are the two that I'm kinda stuck on.
Well,
Technically, they don't fall in the same category.
That is true. Yeah, cause if the maintenance fund is gonna come out of a different,
That's correct.
Right.
yeah, so I'll,
That's coming off the list.
yeah, I'll go with the forestry,
Okay.
forestry gear,
I think that's a good one.
yeah.
I'm gonna put a star on maintenance.
Yeah, as soon as my computer will work, I'm gonna update the spreadsheet.
So that $30,000 one is totally separate from that. All right, makes sense.
Well, crossing out the 90,000 and putting in the 28, I mean, you're well
Yes.
within your total amount.
Yep, I don't know what you mean by that.
The 90,000 for the, rescue tool replacement is being reduced to 20.
Yeah.
28.
Yep, yep. What I didn't know,
Oh,
what do you mean
I'm
by
sorry.
total amount?
Huh?
What do you mean by total amount?
It's it's not gonna raise his total
Oh,
amount
yeah, no.
requested.
Yeah. No, makes sense to me. That makes sense to me.
Well, thank you for coming.
No, thank you
Thank you.
guys, I appreciate the work that you put into it and stuff, and your input and everything, so, thank you.
Before we let you go, police, Chief Shartner's gonna ask us for radios, and you're involved in that
No, phone system.
phone system.
So we have the phone system that we're currently using, between police and fire, that's hooked up to our dispatch center as well. They are no longer, the company is no longer selling those phones as of December of this year. And as of December of next year, they will no longer be supporting them anymore with parts, pieces, or anything like that. So, we're looking at, and I'm not sure where Chief Shartner is with that, if he's talked to if we're getting the same system as everybody else, but it's updating that system, because we're gonna need a whole new phone system on our side for that.
Okay.
So kind of looking at where the, January, December of 2025, will be the end date for those, kind of trying to get that taken care of before that date comes. So he has basically the phone list for both sides and stuff, and how many phones we're gonna need and how that breaks down.
Okay. Cool. I just was hoping for any input you had.
Yes,
before we let you go.
I'm in favor of it, we need to have it, because we can't go without phones.
Who
Yeah.
needs phones?
No, but actually, that is a
Smoke
valid point, if we
signals.
don't have the phones, it makes the day a little easier.
There you go.
We still
Sitting
have-
around waiting for non-existent phones to ring,
Yep.
you'd be fine.
Yeah, they'll call somebody, and eventually dispatch will send us out to the call, so we're good, yeah, that's good. Not a bad
Isn't that
thing.
why we have got you radios?
Yes,
So you didn't have to answer
exactly,
phones.
exactly. So, yeah. All right.
Okay,
Well,
cool.
thank you very much.
so much.
You're
Thank you.
very welcome.
I should be back your doll.
No, she might
I
just
might
be
have to
very,
carry her out of the building. I
I was
think
gonna
she's,
say, she might
can
be,
curl up like a cat.
I know it. I was watching her. She walked back and forth like 4 times. I was watching, then she finally curled up and went down.
Well, that's why I kind of let her do it, because I'm like, I know what she's doing.
She's
She's
looking for
getting
that
comfortable.
softness.
yes.
Yeah, and then she's good.
My favorite was when she tried to make one of the seats more comfortable.
Yeah.
and
Yes,
she
the
was like,
nesting, and,
no.
yeah, these seats aren't gonna work.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and even my favorite is she does this all behind me. She never does it in front of me. If I'm sitting with her and stuff, she'll sit at my feet. She won't do it. But if I'm sitting with my back to her, she will do the chair surfing and everything else without me watching. And it's just like, haha.
Well, at one point, she just stood kind of behind you and was just like
Yes.
surveying everybody.
She
at the table.
literally sat down like this.
Yeah,
and just
like a
kinda-
person.
Uh,
Just looking around. Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Right.
She's a good girl.
She is.
All right.
Thank
I
you, sir.
I
Thank
made
you.
read her for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
No.
So I have to apologize. All
No.
the days have blended together, and I don't have any of my paperwork with me tonight.
That's okay.
Kristen gave us a list.
If you wanna give him one of those,
Oh, I can.
you might be able to just go right down the list.
Yeah.
I put all yours in a little category together for you.
Because I do have a pen that.
Oh, so I really reduplicated things for you guys, didn't I?
No, it's, but you did the explanation, you did prioritizing, so it
That's
makes
good.
it,
Good. Yeah.
no, you,
Good.
that's
Yeah, no,
fine.
Thank you.
I love paper.
I do too. I still love paper.
I am this
I'm a
exact, I like
50-50.
having it in front of me and being able to go through it. That's why I always make photocopies for people, because I feel like you should be right in front of you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Good
Sorry,
Thanks.
everybody.
Good night, Fia.
You gonna say goodbye? She's like, sort of. All right, thanks, guys.
Hopefully I got them all right. This will be the moment when you're like, no, that wasn't right.
Yeah, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, so we can start out with the 450. I don't remember the year of it. I had it on my paper.
Let me see if I can.
20. God, I do remember it's over 100,000 miles. I think.
What's this one? Is this the small dump?
It's the service truck, the green service truck.
Yeah, well, it's okay. It's not, I keep thinking it's a dump, but it's not a dump. It's got the toolboxes in the
Yeah.
side, yeah.
That's the one we're looking to replace.
I've got your
this year.
sheet.
Starting to get a little beat up.
Oh, it certainly is.
It's a 2012.
2012.
So you're talking 12 years old.
Yeah. And Jim was saying it's the longest we've ever kept a truck.
Yeah.
Like,
But have you really had any problems with it, Fred?
We have a little bit.
Yeah.
So the front end parts are starting to wear out. We've had it aligned twice, and it just, everything keeps,
Yeah.
it's drifting. That's the biggest problem we've had with it.
Does that have a plow on it?
It does.
Yeah.
So that's usually out every storm as well.
Yeah, that does.
When we have
So if you went with this, the old plow wouldn't fit it, would it?
No, it wouldn't.
So you would have to end up getting a new plow on it?
Yeah, and that was actually part of the cost for
The
it.
95.
Oh, that's including the plow?
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I know what they go for.
Well, that's why it'd be nice if we were able to keep it.
What's that, have a 10-foot on it?
Yeah. No, 9 foot.
9 foot? Well, I just put a 7.5 in my truck, and I got a deal, and it was $6,600 for 7.5.
Yeah. This one I think is around 8,900.
Yeah, just don't go to Madigan.
Oh, no. Madigan Arabia.
They just see dollar signs as
They
you
were
walk in the
fif-
door.
$1,600 more than what I paid for the same identical plow.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
insane.
And they turn them out like all the time.
Yep,
Because they're a fitter.
yeah,
That and the bodies.
yep. Okay, so that 95, so you're talking 10 grand, right, just alone for the plow?
Yeah.
Makes sense. And that's including all the boxes and everything as you're buying? It comes as,
Yep.
who's
so-
the boxes, Reading or?
Well, there were 3 that you could choose from. Obviously, there's like the low class, middle of the road, and the Cadillac version. We went with the middle of the road.
Who's that?
'cause, Um, yeah, Napheide.
Yeah, Nappy,
Nappy.
yep.
Because the one that we have on there now, we found out is like the bottom of the line. It actually wasn't bad, but we've had Bondo on doors, things
Yeah.
like that, because it was rotten out. So it's like, we don't need a Cadillac version, because it's just carrying tools.
Yep.
So we were gonna keep it the same dual wheel, because the boxes are bigger, you can actually carry stuff, whereas the white truck, they're like this wide. You really can't put tool sets in. So that was that truck. And actually, as part of that, we haven't got their, so they're gonna do the assessment value. When we replaced the 2016, or 2009, our last truck that we replaced during COVID, we've had trouble trying to get it on the auction site, so we still have ownership of it. So they're working on a price for a 2 pickup trade-in, for this one. But at the time that we got our estimate, they didn't have someone to come out to do their evaluation. So once we have that, I'll be able to submit it, or update my request.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
And the seal coating of the parking lot at the highway garage, that's been, so the hot top was late in 2018, between 2018, 2019, and we're already getting cracks throughout it. So the seal coat is actually including crack sealing the parking lot and seal coating. All the companies that I reached out to, they do recommend, like even residential driveways every 3 years, and we're over 5 years with it. So we were kinda like going back and forth on that. And then if that one went, this building here would be the next year or the year after, if we go with a 5-year cycle, to preserve the pavement.
Didn't we just repave this?
This we did, 3 years ago. So that's why if we went another year or 2 years, it would
Yeah.
bring it to that cycle.
If you don't take care of the cracks and stuff, you're getting nothing but troubles down the road. It's gonna cost you more money long-term.
Exactly, cause now the water's getting in it.
That's always been one of my things is, we just did my place last year, we did it with lines, and that was 12 grand, that was last year, so this is not a bad price.
Yeah, and this actually comes in with our lines. We don't
Yeah.
have a lot, it's basically just right in front of the building. I
Right.
think there's 3 or 4 spots.
Yeah.
And that comes with them doing the lines on it.
Do you still have to do a handicap parking at yours?
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have the ramp leading up to the door.
Yeah, I thought so, but, I just was one curious.
Yeah. Yeah, cause we actually had someone come in, they did an assessment. So we had to slow down our door closures because they closed too quick.
Yep.
Yeah, we have, one space for it. So the mower back system, I don't have the paper, I wish I did. So that actually came in late, that was like a day before our expensive Redo, because that's the machine we use for like all the leaf cleanup and things like that.
Fred,
because-
could you turn the volume up just a little bit?
Sure, I'm sorry. So the vac machine is the one, we call it the Turtle, I'm sure you've seen it around. It's the only one that we have that actually collects the grass, besides the cemetery walker mowers. And one of our senior work-off guys, we had him on it one day, and he noticed something wasn't feeling right with it. It was like lunging. And then one of our guys had it, and it seemed like the trainee was slipping in it, the hydrostatic motor. So we had the fluid changed in it. They actually cleaned the lines out with diesel fuel, cleaned everything all out, put fluid back in it. It worked for about a day and a half, and then it just stopped working. We had Padulas check it out because it's a John Deere, and they were trying to tell us it's $12,000 for a hydrostatic motor.
It's not Padula anymore, that's the
Yeah,
problem.
United Ag, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it there for you, just slide it up and down.
Thank you.
Wow,
You are
seems-
welcome.
It sounds like a lot of money for
It's
a
'cause
vac
it's
system.
not Padula anymore.
No, I know, but I mean, sounds like a lot of money for a vac.
Yeah, so the mower itself is a 2009, and it's got 2,324 hours on it.
And what would happen to it?
That, hopefully they'll take it as a trade-in in the condition it's in, because if we were to put $12,000 into it, you know, I don't know what's next.
That's almost half the cost of a new one anyways.
Yeah, and it's almost a direct replacement, with what we're getting, except they went with a four-wheel drive bumper, because the one we have now came as two-wheel drive, but we had to order like wheel weights and all this other stuff, because there was no traction with the weight of the mower deck out front. So that's what that one was. In that estimate, I think, I forget where Jim had got it from. I don't know if it was Boston Lawnmower or if it was from United. The next one is the sidewalks right out front here.
I can get you that one if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, you got it.
So where the sidewalks start from Linden Street, basically come right down by the mailboxes, and then that little front entryway, stopping just before it goes down towards the handicap side. When the curbing was put in, it was never cemented on either side, so the curbing's moving up and down. Ideally, it should have been repaired when the parking lot was done, because you may have to dig on the street side and not so much under the sidewalk. And that's why all the sidewalks basically sinking, because nothing was compacted. And I couldn't remember at the time, so I got the estimate from Dougie Crosman, who does this all the time, or Larry Crosman, actually. So I was trying to think of, like, when that work was done. I don't know if it was, like, started in the fall, done in the winter, things like that. So I couldn't tell him that, you know, it was compacted right or not, because I wasn't even part of the job. So his estimate was to come in and remove it all, dig down along the granite and cement it the way it should be to keep it in place. If there are pieces he may have to change, I think he had figured in so many feet of the granite if he had to remove it. There was an extra cost, I believe, in the 22,000 range if he had to dig out in the street, because now he's gonna be replacing the hot top in the parking lot. But ideally, it'd be nice if everything was done on the other side. And this was one of the things that they actually brought up on the facility study, to have maintained or fixed.
I thought it was supposed to be fixed as part of the parking lot.
I have no idea, because that was right around the time that Dave left and Jim and I were stepping up. And I think they had Keith and Paul McKelk oversee the project, because that would have been the perfect time to get it done.
Was my understanding, because I remember Eloise talking about slipping and falling on the sidewalks, and
Yeah.
that's why we should redo the parking lot.
Yeah, and it's,
I'm old, I'm sorry, Fred.
Yeah.
no, no.
It happened.
We don't use the word old, we're
That's right.
seasoned.
So why do we have 3 years in a row for that?
For the sidewalk?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, wrong one. I'm looking at the overhead door one, sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
My
there's three.
second part of this question is, why can't we tie in that sidewalk, parking lot repairs for the library in this whole package?
So we thought about doing it that way, we talked about doing it that way, but we thought that it was easier to do it by building as opposed to I mean, when you put
Like
it out
grouping.
to bid, they're a little bit different, right? What you're doing at the
Yeah.
library versus here?
Yeah, this one is more extensive than the library. The library has, like cracked sections of it.
Well, the sidewalk going to the library down to the street is in rough shape.
Yep.
And from the sidewalk going this way, in front of it's in rough shape.
The one where the cars pull into?
No, down in the front walkway going down to the street, to Walnut Street,
Okay,
that sidewalk is, when you get down to the sidewalk itself, is pretty
yeah,
deep. That's, so that sidewalk from the library steps down. I was looking at it, it's not that great.
no, and some of those have lifted too.
Right, so, and then you look at that sidewalk, because I think there's that's a handicap accessible to the walk right there too, it's a street
Yes.
right there, isn't it? So if you look at that, I was actually looking at that, because I said, I could see where they were complaining about it.
Mm.
But I'm just saying is if you
Can you bid it out together, you mean, to
you bid it out
save-
together, because they're already here.
Yeah.
I mean, I can, if you want to put it under separate, you can, but I'm just saying at the time is when you're doing it, do both at the same time, so they have one come out and do it all one shot.
Yeah, I can see putting it all as the same bid, and then just, you can still keep it as separate projects.
Yeah, you can still, even when they do a separate, you can still do it as a separate, but, I'd just like to see that tied together.
I think that makes sense, like when we were.
And I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job, believe me.
Oh, no, not a
He
problem
is.
at all.
No, cause I do bids and stuff all the time, and you try to tie it together.
It's economies of scale.
Yeah.
They're already gonna be out here. They don't have to mobilize
Right,
everything up
once
again,
they're here, they're
right?
here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
makes sense.
I can write on this one.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
all
first you
yours.
Yeah,
have to
that's
get
yours.
the budget approval, and then that's the next step, actually getting it done,
Yeah.
and that would be up to them.
But, you still gotta tie it in together when you go for the budget approval. Cause I know somebody's gonna pop up and say, well, how come you got library sidewalks and then you got the highways, the municipal building sidewalks, aren't they the same? Well,
Nobody's gonna say that.
Only you, Steve.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's reading.
you wanna bet?
Okay,
Yeah, I'll bet
your
ya.
friends.
Yeah, you can't tell anyone to say it.
No, I know,
I'm gonna tell people
I
to
know
say
some
other
of the
things.
people that I hang around with in this town, watch out.
Got a motley crew, huh?
Right.
You ever see the guys up there Friday mornings at the store?
I've heard stories.
Well, you can go up tomorrow morning, 'cause tomorrow's Friday.
I will be in Devon's tomorrow at a conference,
Oh.
unfortunately.
No, I was just looking at it as to, that's the way I
Yeah.
would look at it.
Yeah.
Which leads me to go, so the next thing on the library list is the retaining wall.
Yes.
And you guys, right, built the retaining wall over at the transfer station.
That we haven't completed yet.
You have not
No,
completed that yet?
because that'll be this spring's project,
Okay,
because we finished, well, we did, the Lyman Road pipe project this summer.
okay,
So that is our big project for this.
next
coming
year. So, but you can rebuild retaining walls. So
Yeah.
could you rebuild the one at the library?
Oh, we most certainly could.
Okay.
Um,
And so does that $11,000 figure, is that using your skills for the
um,
library, or
it's
have you guys
Bob
not talked at
LeVay.
all?
Well, so that estimate came from Bobby LeVay,
Okay.
up on Lancaster Road.
My other
So
question to
he-
you is, do you have time to even do something like that? That's the other question.
That's a valid point.
I
Yeah.
mean, I hate to spend money, but your time and your crew's time is valuable to do other stuff in the town,
Right.
So, I mean, I kinda look at it that way.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I just wanted to, while we have you here on the hot seat, I
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to ask.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, so it's a bummer that, because when we went for the block for the transfer station.
Yeah.
We were hoping that year, that section would have been done, because then we were gonna come back the following year to get the other section done.
Yeah.
So now we're kinda like a year behind on that, which is because the pipe job, we wanted to start the year before. And we didn't, because I think at the time we were short-staffed, one or two people, or we were constantly changing people.
Yeah.
So then we get up there later in the season, cause we did all our paving projects early, so we could spend the rest of the summer getting the pipe job. And the guys know that our spring job is starting the transfer station.
Okay.
Which is kinda nervous, because I'm sure concrete has already gone up again. So,
Yeah.
that's the bad part.
So,
Maybe not.
if I had my druthers, I'd rather you have, your time and have somebody do the wall.
Yeah.
If we had a fully, robust highway crew,
Well,
that would be a different story
yeah.
too.
But,
I mean,
you
if
know,
had lots of employees.
They got a lot of stuff going on, I mean,
They do.
and
And
that's what I'm saying, sometimes
facilities,
your
too.
time is more valuable than,
Yeah, we were just talking about layering projects
Yeah.
together, and if you're doing one wall,
Yeah.
I was just
Right.
curious if doing a second wall was
Mm.
an option.
And that's actually with us, like, doing the excavation part. Bobby told me, you gotta go down a certain amount, because he's gonna put something down, and then he's gonna finish it with stone, everything's compacted. And I was like, well, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'll follow you. But yeah, so we'll be on the project with him,
Okay.
okay,
but he's actually probably gonna be the bricklayer, if he gets it, like, when you put it out.
Yeah.
If he
Right.
gets it.
I mean, you have to go out to bid anyway.
Right.
oh, yeah, no,
So I
it's
didn't
just,
worry about it.
Even for our own town?
no, if you do it in-house, you wouldn't even be on this list.
No,
Yeah,
but it gives
exactly.
you an
The
idea
materials,
of
though.
Materials,
if
yeah,
you
that's,
can't
yeah,
do it in-house, you gotta go out and you
Yeah.
gotta go out to bid.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But if the bid comes in a lot higher, you might have to do it in-house at a slightly different inconvenient time.
yep,
It's very simple. You got money or you don't.
yep. Okay,
Alright,
thank you.
And then the last one was the overhead doors.
Want
here
that
at the-
one?
Yeah. And then, so the idea of this was, the one that, was hit by a fire truck, got replaced and everything. The ones that are out there now, they're obsolete, they don't make parts for them, the panels or anything like that, which is why the insurance company had to purchase an entire new door. With the new door, they're thicker, so they're a better R value, which would save on the energy. Last week, when I was working one of the night shifts, the door for the ladder truck, literally the bottom corner of the door rotted. And so now that's inoperable. We can't do anything with that door, which wasn't the ones I was gonna replace. The plan was to do the two ambulance doors, cause they get more use. Because the front one, engine one's door, is the one that has already gotten replaced. And then each year, we're gonna do the next two doors, and then next, because they're over 21 years old, they really never had any maintenance right along with them. And, I was shocked when the other one broke the other night.
what's, the door's gonna be fiberglass?
Yes. Yeah. And actually, they basically gave me the same bid as what they did for the insurance company. So they came in at, like $9,800, and that's new track, because the doors are wider, the rollers are wider. So they're replacing the track, the door, and new weather stripping. Same style, it's got the oval windows, so basically they're matching, so it's not like this is gonna look ugly for a
Right.
year until we can keep going down the trail. So right now, I'm actually working to get that door fixed. Or well, it won't be fixed, it'll be replaced. Because then, it would've been two every year. The last year would've been the last fire department door, and then the police department selling port door. And that would've brought everything up, to a better R value for imagery. Cause right now, like, the stuff out there, you can feel it, it's drafty, there's holes underneath. And it's just tough, because, when they came out, they're like, this panel's obsolete. And
Mm.
it's like, what do you mean? I don't know if they were like trying to say, you just need to buy a new door from us. But, yeah, so that's where that stood, for the replacement of the doors.
So that's two doors for 20 grand?
Yes. And that's installed. The one thing I know they forgot to put on there was they're gonna have to get a hot works permit, because they're using torches and grinders,
Right.
and that was $50. But I was gonna point that out to them, you shorted yourself $50, cause they'll know when it comes time.
Don't worry, they're making enough on it, they can absorb the $50.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And they were actually quick. They were in and out. They did that door in like half a day.
Yeah. Who did it, do you remember?
Overhead door,
Oh,
Worcester.
Worcester,
Yeah.
cool.
But yeah, that's That's my little mini presentation.
Now I'm gonna ask you to rank them.
Well, that could be easy enough.
Cool.
It'd be ideal to replace the pickup truck only because of the age. In the miles it's gone forward, it's gone back at least a third of them.
You talking about the 450?
Yeah.
So that's basically your priority, really, right?
The seal coat, again, we can get the cracks filled. We don't need to actually put the seal coat on. But another year really won't really be too much of a problem with it. The mower back system is ideal, because that's really all we have to pick up leaves and, the grass when they start fertilizing the fields at the ball fields.
So are you telling me this is really already in priority order?
Well, I didn't type it. No, I would move the,
I did, so I just threw them in there as they showed up.
So the mower back would be number
alphabetically
two.
Yeah,
almost.
that's what I heard.
Yeah.
well, I would move it down because the sidewalks, I think, are more important. Right now, they're a pretty bad trip hazard. And we wanna try to.
Well, that's, sidewalks, because that's a safety thing.
Right. So I would even probably make that number one.
Okay.
And the overhead door placement, I mean, this one failed, early, so I'd probably put that up to number two.
You got one that's not working now?
Yeah, it's door number one.
It's not repairable to get it to work, or?
No, because the panel, it's the bottom right-hand.
Oh, no, I'm not just saying it's too bad, we just can't get it by for a little bit of time so you can use it, that's
Well,
all.
that's what I asked him, because with, the roller broke off the bottom, that's the one where the cable comes
Yeah.
down for the spring. I says, can't you just move it up and put it into like, new metal? And he's like, no, because that works off the tensioner,
Yeah,
so the door wouldn't come up straight.
oh, yeah, that's
Can't you
right.
just crank the door?
They couldn't replace the bottom panel?
No, because they don't make the panel anymore. That was the problem they had when they were looking into this one, because it's thicker.
Yep.
That's why I was like, well, can't you just move it and, at least make it operational?
Yeah, it's
It's
too
not
bad.
even openable, by manual anymore. So they get the trucks turned around to come out the back of the station.
Is there a way of prioritizing that to get that done before this goes to next year?
Well, that door there is actually in the process of being replaced.
Oh, okay, all right.
So I did this before that, cause that just broke last week.
Oh,
And I was like, why couldn't it have just waited?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
yeah.
Your timing is terrible, right?
Oh.
With the door.
Yeah, and that was like, 11:15 at night, and it's like, I don't need this right now. Yeah, so I would probably move the sidewalks up to the first one, the overhead doors for the second one. And if there was a way to replace the pickup, then I would go that route. Yeah,
What's
Then the mower, then the seal coating?
What's the lead time for one of those trucks?
well, last time we did it, it was in COVID, so that kinda kicked everything back. Nowadays, I'm not really sure.
Yeah. I mean, just this day and age with stuff, you never know.
Yeah, and one thing, so this was actually, bid or spec'd out with the diesel engine. There's a new, standard coming out as of January 1st that you wouldn't be able to register
That's
as
right.
diesel. Because of the emissions and everything, they don't meet the California that
Right.
we adopted. So this may actually become a gas motor, which will be considerably cheaper. I think it's like $12,000 or $15,000 cheaper because you're going gas versus diesel.
Yep.
You
The only
can
difference,
register a diesel in
Yeah.
the mower?
yeah,
It has to meet California Prop 65 if you're in Massachusetts.
yeah. So police and fire are exempt, but
But
DPWs aren't, which,
nor
Don't
private
understand.
owners who drive horse trailers.
yeah. They just talked about it at the Worcester County Highway meeting in Worcester the other day.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Actually, I just read that in those action, my article I read about it.
Yeah.
Can you give me the priority again, Fred? I'm sorry. I got sidewalks, doors, and then I got lost.
Yeah, so it'd be the sidewalk, the overhead doors, if we could, the 550 replacement, and then the mower, and then the seal coat.
Then the mower, then the seal coat. Got it. Thank you.
How much would it cost you just to do cracks? Or
Well-
don't they recommend doing it without the seal coat?
Well, the cracks we can do ourselves. We do have a crack seal machine.
Oh,
And for the size of the parking lot, we could do it ourselves for.
because
a
that's,
couple hundred bucks.
that's the worst part of it, is sealing the cracks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can be done. I mean, that's easy enough.
I had one of my parking lots that started the size of my finger, and by the time they did it, it was that big.
Yeah.
I
And once-
kept telling them, I said, you know what's gonna cost you? Cost you $12,000 now. You have to fix that, it's gonna cost you $20,000.
Yeah. We just had a company come in town and they did one day, they did Barnes Hill and Derby Road. And that was just over 10,000.
Yeah. Alright. Very good.
Cool.
You survived.
That wasn't so painful, huh?
I like coming to these meetings,
Oh, that's
actually.
good.
You know?
You
You
get
s-
to
you
go
s-
to the next two then.
Why, I got more?
No.
Well, I got one.
Well, if you give,
five
oh yeah, if we
minutes.
give you more money, he'll come back, right?
I'll
What do you
come
got?
back.
You
Come
got-
on,
Pay
you
you to
still
come
on
back.
call?
Tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on shift downstairs. I'm the only one on tonight. That's
Oh.
what took me so long to get here.
Like
We had a
triple
medical
duty.
up the street.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I saw you guys leave, I was sitting in the parking lot.
Yeah,
Oh.
so. yeah.
That was a quick pickup and back though.
Yeah. Well, we had the stage originally for the PD to go in and clear
Oh.
the scene, and then we just picked up and went to Clinton. But now I get to go downstairs and do my station duties,
Mm.
truck
There you go.
checks and station duties.
You're a better man than I am, Freddie.
You just gotta stay busy, you know?
Keep moving.
Yeah, there's 24 hours in the day. I may as well use them all.
Thanks, Fred.
No, thank you for having me come in. I apologize for forgetting.
No, it's
Oh.
okay, don't worry about it.
This week is just like, every day just blends together.
Absolutely. And runs faster into the next day.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
But it just means I'm getting a little bit quicker.
Season.
Yes, yes, you never say we're old, we're seasoned.
There we go.
Exactly.
I know,
I like
that's a good
that.
term, I like that.
No.
Yeah, well,
Fred, the elevator needs to be inspected before January.
they usually come out, December or January. They'll come out.
But it expired in January of '24.
But you know something?
No, so it has been done. I do have, this.
Okay. Well, when I'm sitting there in the elevator, you look around, you know.
Yeah, well, they're still getting them out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the state's usually pretty slow in that thing.
Yeah, well, at one point, after the inspection was done, he would go out in his truck and do it on his tablet.
Mm.
And then before I got back, it'd be an email.
Yeah.
And they tell you, you know, how to bring it down to the index card, whatever. But he just, I don't know, every once in a while he'll send them, sometimes he won't.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely
Thank
been
you.
done. At $1,200, it's been done. So in a couple of years, they're actually gonna be doing the actual weight test to it. That's every 5 years.
I tell you, it's just like we have to get, we have like 5 compressor air tanks,
Yeah.
you know, storage tanks to our plant, and they have to be inspected every 3 years.
Yep.
So we call them up, and we says, okay, they're due to be inspected in 3 months. Oh, that's plenty of time. 6 months later, they finally go, oh, we gotta come out and do your tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, no kidding.
Yeah. Well, the gentleman that used to do it here for us, Frank, I think it was the last, he would always call ahead and be like, you know, I'm showing these ones need to be done this year.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. So he set it up right there and, you know, he'd come in and he'd bang them all out.
Yeah.
That's how we didn't know that when the highway garage was done, the tank was never inspected. So we had to file a permit with the Department of Fire Services for them to do their thing. We had to put an extra drain in.
Yep.
And then the state came back and inspected it.
Yep.
But it's like, we didn't know all this.
Now they have a tool and they wrap the tank
Yeah.
to see how bad it is and how the wall is by how it rings.
Yeah. And then they'll put
Next we'll be kicking
some type of
tires.
electronic thing.
Yep.
That'll go on and they'll read the,
The thickness of the wall.
yeah,
Wow.
and they check to make sure you're draining it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, they go up and down it.
That's crazy.
And then they do our boiler,
Yep.
same thing.
Thanks again, Fred.
No, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
You
Good
too.
night.
Do you have anything for us?
I will have more at your next meeting, cause I do have good news. This is as of today. So as you may or may not have heard, if you're watching Select Board and FinCom meetings, we unfortunately had to go back and take another look at FY '24, which is delaying us. After we had an employee who departed this past spring, we discovered that cash was not fully reconciled, which is causing the problem with us being able to get our tax bills out, which is causing a problem with us being, causing a problem with us being able to close out '24, get the tax bills out, but also get you numbers, which I know you need. But the good news is, we have a solution we worked out with the DOR, with the Department of Revenue. So we're having our tax hearing with the Select Board on December 2nd, and then the bills will be going out shortly thereafter. So we are going to have all of the paperwork ready to hit the button, hopefully on December 3rd, maybe December 2nd at night. We'll see if we can get it ready. And then from there, it takes the state a few weeks to process. So I'm hoping either by the end of December, beginning of January, we will have numbers. So my recommendation is do exactly what you're doing. Have the folks rank things, and hopefully we'll have more info. One thing I can say is public safety stabilization is not going to have much money because of the upstairs renovation project. And the fact we are going to actually send the invoice that we mail them every year out early. I actually asked my assistant if she could get that out within the next couple of weeks, because I thought maybe they'll pay early. Last time we literally received it, I think 2 days after the warrant was posted for Maytown meeting, so.
I remember that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness, so I'm
Yeah.
like, well, let's get it out early, you know, they don't have to pay it that early, but you never know, if you don't ask, you don't
Right.
get.
Right.
So, we're gonna give that a whirl and see
Should've put it
where we
on the
go.
warrant, you can always pass over.
We could have, June wasn't comfortable with, you know, appropriating funds, and then that way, you know, we.
No, you put it on the warrant, at the town meeting, you say, we can't take up this article.
Well, we had enough to do some funding, so we would have had to amend it, but, yeah,
Right.
I see what you're saying. So, yeah, it's, good news right around the corner. Just in case you are curious or you hear people asking, we are accepting prepayment of taxes if folks would like to pay up to what their tax bill was last fall, to get it on their '24 taxes. They can, come to the tax collector's office or send it in the mail or drop it in the green box downstairs. We're happy to help folks in that way, but, bills will be going out shortly, then we'll have all our numbers lined up and we'll know everything, so.
What are we
soon.
gonna do about the former treasurer?
What are we gonna do about him?
Yeah,
He's
What-
gone.
so he leaves us in this mess and then he just goes.
Is that our town treasurer?
This is unfortunately a previous, treasurer that we had, yes.
The town, we're not talking the school committee.
No,
Okay.
no, this is on the town
All
side,
right.
so, he's a former employee. I mean, you have ideas, you let me know, but it might involve your cane over there, or your walker over there, but.
No, it might involve a lawsuit.
Well, unfortunately, I would say that their negligence does not really allow us to do that. There is no evidence of any fraudulent activity whatsoever. So we have,
He was just lazy?
I will neither confirm nor deny that.
Especially on camera.
Correct.
Well, it's just that I think that you're gonna burn out June.
Listen, that's why we brought in a consultant. So that's why we've been working with a consultant, and it is expensive, but I'm doing my best to try not to burn out anybody. I don't wanna do that by any
Okay.
means. So we are moving as quickly as we humanly and possibly can without killing people. We don't wanna do that. We have a new office in the treasurer's. We have Kathy Murphy, who was the assistant, now she's the treasurer collector. And we have a gentleman who started over the summer, who came from the banking world, has a lot of financial experience that way, and is doing well.
So we're back up to full.
Back up to full, back on track.
Good.
So that's the most important thing. So if you give us a few more weeks to get all of the numbers in place, and hopefully we'll get a certification. They're saying it's about 3 weeks from the time we get everything in, but then you also have the holiday in there.
Yeah.
So
Right,
if we hit send on December second or
So you're gonna send
third,
out the bill and say Merry Christmas?
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
and we're sorry, and put a little heart next to it, sorry to send
So-
it to you so close to the holiday.
So
Right.
get off that subject, what's the story with the 1.4 mil shortfall of the school committee?
Wait, I wanna pause and just say, we are fine, numbers wise.
Yeah,
We're
we're
all
good.
set, so don't worry about us.
Okay.
Now you can
Excellent.
continue.
That is an excellent question. So, they did come before the select board, the new school administration, the interim finance director, and the interim superintendent. There is now a permanent finance director, the gentleman's name is Aaron Osborne, and, they are working on it. It sounds like, from what I understand, there were offsets that weren't entered into the reporting system. So the funding is there, it wasn't transferred over properly from like school choice, special education circuit breaker funding,
So there wasn't a shortfall.
For what I understand, there still is a little bit of a shortfall, but that is all being worked out internally. They are not coming back to the towns looking for
Cause
funding.
that newspaper article looked really bad.
Yeah, I know, I understand.
Yeah.
So, no, I have to say, it's a new day. The school administration has been working with me. They've already come before the select board and the finance committee, which has been great.
Well,
And we're trying to set a new path forward. So I'm hopeful that, we're turning over a new leaf.
cool. Just pass the word on, they don't have paperwork, don't come talk to me.
We have stressed the importance of documentation, and I think that we might have banged it into their head too much, and
Just a
they
wee
have
bit.
said, we heard, we understand, so, yes. I don't foresee that
Can I just
issue.
make a comment on the police?
Yeah,
On the small amounts,
mm-hmm,
I just put that under communications, cause that's what they all seem to be related to.
oh, that's smart, actually, to make it a communications article.
Oh, yeah, you got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them?
Yep,
Yeah,
So
I like that idea.
yep, it doesn't look, it looks, actually, even though it's a lot more money showing, it looks better.
Right, well, especially given the under $10,000
Yeah.
Yeah,
matter
yeah.
that we just discussed. I can certainly do that. And then what I could do was, I can almost just bullet out the individual line items underneath it, and then
Good
roll it
idea.
up to a top one.
Yep.
All right, will do. Cool. So, and I am so sorry I wasn't able to make your last meeting. Now I'm forgetting what I had, but I had the Fire Academy graduation. That we had 2 new recruits graduate from
Nice.
the academy. And I have actually never been invited before. It was the first one Chief McQuillan has had since he was here, and he invited me, and
Oh,
it was
cool.
a really cool thing to see. So, sorry
Yeah.
I missed your meeting, but
No,
I
that
was,
was,
it was a
You
really
missed nothing
cool thing.
exciting.
no, but
It was
also
fun.
it's nice to see them to see that you got the support of the town there too,
Exactly.
you know.
And I got to see, the pomp and circumstance and all of the ritual, and it was really, really cool to see.
Yeah,
You feel like you're part of a bigger community. It's really nice.
is that down the Stowe Academy?
It was, yeah, and I've never been down there. It's
Yeah.
beautiful down there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I remember when it first started, it was a small rinky-dink building, next thing you know, it goes,
It like expand, yeah, we kept walking through and I'm like, wait, is this another section? And they're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, they just kept adding things on,
Yeah.
so. You
it
get
got
to
so
see.
big.
Oh yeah, they have like houses and burn towers and things
Yeah.
vehicles that they do controlled burns in, and
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
really cool, and then we got to see every class puts together like a coat of arms, and they have a whole hallway with every single academy class and the names of everybody on it, and they go way back. And one of the women said, this is my husband's and this is my son's.
Mm.
And I was like, and now my other son is graduating. And I was
Wow.
just like, it was really cool. There were actually 2 women who graduated. They brought them up on stage. One was a decorated military veteran. Her husband was graduating from the fire academy. And one whose husband was a firefighter, she was now graduating from the fire
Wow.
academy. And they had a few other someone's grandfather, who was a retired fire chief, was brought up on stage to give the pinning or
Right.
what you call it for
Nice.
the gentleman. It was just it was very special.
That's cool.
Yep.
So, yeah. So thank you for not missing me too much.
Well, I gotta make a motion that we adjourn.
You cannot,
Why?
because you must stay here forever. Because we have to talk about our next meetings, and then
Oh.
you can. So I have scheduled us for 2 weeks from today, which I think is the 5th of December, with fire and library.
Oh, something tells me
No,
they got something going on
Police and
then.
library?
Sorry, police
Oh,
and
yeah.
library. There was so much back and forth.
I know. I saw that and then when I went to write it down, I'm like, I'm gonna go to the most recent email.
Yeah.
What is the
Can
fifth?
somebody just verify for me that, fire, he said that he could be there only on the 5th, and then, so I wrote him down for the 5th, and
Fifth
he
is
was like,
Thursday, yeah.
it's Thursday, 2 weeks from today,
Yeah.
7 o'clock.
I thought I had something going on that day.
That's, you want me to check with Eric?
No.
Oh,
Oh,
I-
okay, no, I'm
So
good.
in that email chain, he said he could only be there on the 5th, and then he said, no, I
Okay.
can't, the 5th is the only day I can't be there, and I was like,
No, it's got, I do have something going on, but it's early.
okay. So same 7 PM
I should have that. Yep, I already have that on my calendar.
on the 5th, and then again on the 19th with school.
So who are we meeting on the 19th?
School,
So you want me to bring tissues?
yes, okay. I don't
Yeah,
know-
that's in your packet, by the way. I broke it out on its own separate spreadsheet because it is its own beast.
It is a beast.
And we have to have one bottom line number this year, as we've learned, and I'm still trying to figure out how we're going to do that.
What does
But
that mean?
capital has to be part of the overall assessment that we pay to the schools. So we have to vote on one number now. We have been told by DESI that we cannot break out their assessment into pieces. It has to be
One
one
number.
number.
Okay,
Yes, I was told repeatedly.
Okay.
And nobody likes it, and I
By what?
totally get it. So capital will make their recommendation, but ultimately, the school gets to put forward the number that they want, and it's either a yay or a nay on that number, and that is how
The
it has to go.
total number?
yeah.
On the total
Who
number.
said they have to do the?
The State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. That is, because it's a regional district, you cannot break it out by school, and you cannot line item it, meaning you can't break it out by capital, operating, or debt.
So we don't see where the money,
We are gonna break it out in the description so that everybody can see that's there, but the final vote is
Is
up or
one
down on
number.
one number.
oh, I don't like that.
I know no one does. And I've gone back and forth, but that is the way that it has to be.
Has anybody verified that they've ever fixed the platform to access the HVAC system that they say they're going to fix?
I don't know.
Okay.
We had Guardian, actually asked Guardian to go in. Guardian is working on the HVAC system here we got a Green Communities grant for, and they went in and did a proposal. They have concerns about the mini split project, and they put forward, something different.
Yep.
A BMS system, I think it was, or I forget what it,
The minis, I should take some, next time I'll do is my work. We just did a whole office, lab, break room, office, everything. And they're basically in the ceiling tiles here, and they just like, this one would have like 4. The next office would be 4, but they're in grids like that.
yeah, there's some really interesting new stuff that they're doing.
And then that's all fed, so now you have central air stuff outside. Well, we have 26 of these things in the ceiling. There's only 2 units outside, but they're heat and cool.
Yeah. So.
And we did the whole thing for $165,000, and we got 40% back from National Grid.
I'm gonna send
It's gonna
out
be a
the
great
Guardian-
meeting on
And
December
I
19th.
can, if you want, Kristen,
Yeah,
I will actually, cause it's Samsung, and I'll actually give you the information on it.
That-
I have
that
all
will be
that stuff.
great, and I can share it out, or Anna can
Actually-
share it out.
actually, I gave, to facilities guy, we had last year, I don't know if he's still there or not.
Oh, the school facilities
Yeah.
guy, Dan?
Yeah,
Yep.
I gave him the contractor and information,
I think
He is
that's
still
who we're-
there,
yeah.
I think that's who we're meeting with,
probably, cause I think
Yeah.
But
he can explain the details of it.
Yeah.
But
But,
that's what these guys, it's all they do.
yeah.
And
yeah,
it's programs with this.
that's
Yeah.
really neat. I want that in my house.
You can do
Yeah,
that,
right?
you can have as many as you want to, setting it up, so if you want to, you're in your office,
Yep.
and that half of the room is hot, and this
Oh
half
my
is,
gosh.
you can set it up so that gets heat and this end gets,
You know what we have right now,
Yeah.
they're boiling down this end in
Yeah.
the accounting office and we're freezing and wearing like
Every-
winter hats in ours.
so in other words, you
It's
can't.
one line right now.
You can't have, they all have to be cooling, or they all have to be heat,
Yeah,
but every room is controlled by,
wouldn't that be
by a
lovely?
phone, or your computer, or whoever you want, is controlled by that.
I want that here too.
I'll get that
I
for
mean,
you.
it's a lovely dream
Yes.
for
But-
the school.
They came in and did, like I said, I think they were a week by the time they did it, and they did it at night.
Okay. Well, I will also send you guys over to the Guardian,
Okay.
proposal that they put together. They thought it was actually more expensive, I believe, than the $300,000 when they took a look at the whole system and how to integrate everything. So I'll send that information over, just for reference.
Yeah. well,
Because they are connected up with National Grid, they're like a preferred vendor, so
Yep.
you can tap right into the rebates and everything going through them.
Yep.
Could you
So,
also add the Energy Commission? Okay, basically Amy and Tim.
Yeah, these guys are the
yes,
same way.
they've seen it too, that they were on the original conversations about it, yep.
Yeah, these guys same way. I think, like I said, I think we got 40% back.
It's huge right now,
Yeah.
yeah. Would have been helpful though, unfortunately, my water heater and boiler went, last month, and I found out that the incentives ended August 31st.
Oh, no.
6 weeks before it
Yep.
went, cause they recommended we get a combo,
Yeah, yeah.
combo one.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
They don't do the incentives for those anymore because they're trying to completely move away from, they're trying to electrify everything,
Right.
basically. So natural gas is not kosher anymore either,
Nope.
apparently.
so Massachusetts is trying to, stop natural gas from, not natural gas, I'm sorry, propane
Mm-hmm.
from being for stoves. They're trying to outlaw them, so if you have propane in your stove,
Our entire house is propane.
yeah,
It's a
but
little-
Heat, hot
they're,
water,
they're trying to
stove.
do that, I don't know why,
Is
I've
it
never,
danger, like,
I-
are they
I
concerned about
haven't
like
got the-
fires or?
yeah, I haven't got the whole, how do you do about it? Not natural gas, but
But
strictly
propane.
propane, yeah.
Which is hysterical, cause natural gas is what explodes more.
I
Well,
know
that's
it.
the Merrimack Valley situation, is
Right, because natural gas
right?
is under pressure and propane usually is not,
It's
Right.
low
And
pressure.
it's in smaller amounts.
and it's in smaller
Yeah,
amounts.
it's low,
yeah.
it's low pressure.
I can't figure
Unless you
these
live on Pleasant Street.
things out. Even the folks that came out were like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense, and we're really sorry you missed it by 6 weeks. And I was like, well, I gotta do it, so
Yeah.
what am I gonna do?
Can I make the motion now?
Now you can make a motion.
Can I make the motion, we adjourn at whatever time you pick?
I'm, 9,
8:50.
yeah, I was gonna say 9:10. 10
9:10?
of 9,
Yeah.
8:50. Yeah.
4 o'clock comes off early.
Yeah, yeah. Our puppies get up at 4:45 every morning.
Yeah.
They're like, we know the alarm goes off in
I'm
15
up,
minutes,
I'm
so
up
get up
about
now.
4 and I'm on the road at 20 past.
That's
Oof.
my husband. He catches the
That's
4:40 train out of Southborough.
Wow.
Yeah, and sometimes he's up at 2 or 3 just